This is Sean Kanan. I played Mike Barnes in The Karate Kid 3. And you're listening to Cobra Kai Kompanion. So sit down, shut up, and bow to your sensei, because your karate's a joke.
Welcome to another episode of Cobra Kai Kompanion. And I am Peter, also host of Nostalgic.
And I am Tom, also a host of Jake and Tom Conquer the World.
And we have another interview, a very exciting one that I would say listeners have been asking for, and we delivered. We have Sean Kanan from the Karate Kid Part 3 movie. Mike Barnes.
Yep, the bad boy of karate himself.
Absolutely.
Sat down with us.
Yeah. Virtually, but he
Right,
did.
well, yeah.
Somebody's going to be like, what? You guys were in the same room? Like, no. you know how people get. But, he sat down with us, talked to us about quite a bit of stuff. We actually had more time with him. Unfortunately, we were running through some technical difficulties. So we got a good half hour in there. I think we got most of our questions answered, I would say.
I would say so, yeah. And, overall, my impressions of him is just a really cool dude. I mean, he has the reputation of, again, the bad boy of karate, but I'd say he's anything but a bad guy. He's just a really laid back, really kind-hearted guy.
Yeah, he's a really nice dude. At the very end of our call, he actually, kind of said like, it'd be cool to meet in person sometime. In my mind, I was just thinking like, man, I wish to have him back so we can talk some more. But hell, I'll take meeting him in person.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So not only that, I mean, there were a few things that I knew that he had done previously, but I didn't realize how many soap operas he had been on. I had heard about The Bold and the Beautiful, but I didn't know he was also in General Hospital, and I don't know, I kind of forgot some of the other titles, but he's been in a number of things. So he's been actively working for decades.
Yeah, plus he's a bit of a renaissance man, and I mean, he's an actor, he's a martial artist, he's a dancer, he's a writer, he is involved behind the camera with films. I mean, he wears a lot of hats.
He has cooked, or he cooks. He talks about his book, so we'll, get into that as well. But yeah, he has quite he has lived a full life, I would say. He's
very much so, yeah.
Sounds like he's done quite a bit. So, we had a good time speaking to him, so we hope that you guys have a good time listening to it.
Hey, Peter, how are you?
Hey, good, Sean. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Excellent.
We finally worked this out.
Yeah. It was, so, I know you have a limited time with us, so we'll go ahead and jump into it. Before we get started on anything, I teased to you the other evening that we have a mutual friend, and that's Sensei William Christopher Ford.
Oh, yeah. I was actually just with him at the Dragon Fest a couple weeks ago.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, so I reached out to him. I asked him if there's anything he would like me to tell you, and he says that out of the Karate Kid 3 cast, that he respects you and Sensei Demura the most, that you always returned.
That's very nice of him.
You returned his calls and always helped him with his fundraisers for St. Jude Children's Hospital, so much love and respect to you from him.
Oh, that's great. Well, I have a lot of respect for him, too, so it goes both ways.
Yeah. So, thank you again for giving us this opportunity to speak with you. The focus, because of what we do here on this podcast, we want to talk about your role in the Karate Kid 3. Can you tell us, how did you even get onto the Karate Kid Part 3 and the character of Mike Barnes?
Yeah, I was studying martial arts for a long time in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, and my teacher decided to join the Japan Karate Federation, Sensei Demura's organization. So sometime later, I had met Sensei Demura, and we got to know each other, and he knew that I wanted to become an actor. At that point, I was living in Los Angeles pursuing acting, and he got in touch with me and said that they were going to be doing Karate Kid 3, and that they were looking for a bad guy, and I should try and figure out a way to get involved with the film. And I had done a little bit of television work at that point. I had my SAG card, and they were going to have an open call outside of one of the studios. And so I showed up at the casting director's office, and I said, look, I said, I know there are going to be a lot of people there that aren't, you know, they're not all actors. I am, and I would very much like to audition for you today if that's possible. And she said, nope, you got to go wait in line with everybody else. Showed up. There must have been, I mean, there were hundreds, if not more than 1,000 people waiting in line to audition for John Avildsen, who had won the Oscar for Rocky and directed the first two Karate Kids. And John Avildsen was walking up the line of hopefuls, and he had a video recorder with him, and I think he had a couple guys with him, and he was sort of filming people as he would stop and talk to them, having them do little improvs on the street. He asked me to do an improv with him, and I did, and he said, I'll leave it, and he set me inside the sound stage. And when I got in there, there was a lot going on. It was really it was pretty amazing. They had built a set, and Ralph Macchio was actually there, and they asked me to do a scene with Ralph. They asked me to kind of, intimidate him, play the bad guy, and I did, and I guess it was believable. And they wound up hiring another guy for the part, and I guess he didn't work out. They kept him for maybe 2 days, and they fired him, and they called me in, and the rest is kind of history.
And also, you had a serious injury on set, didn't you?
I did. I did all my own stunts, and I had to do a very simple stunt. It wasn't martial arts. I was standing, and I had to sort of throw myself about 3 feet away and land on my side, and I did it over and over and over again. And we broke for 2 weeks. We broke for Christmas, actually. And I drove to Las Vegas with a friend, and I had been experiencing really bad pain in my left thigh, which I attributed to all the martial arts training. So I was taking a lot of aspirin. And in reality, what I had done was I had perforated my omentum, which is sort of a sheath of skin that wraps around your intestine. And I've been bleeding internally for several days, and eventually when I was in Las Vegas, and then the aspirin, of course, exacerbated the bleeding. And when I was in Las Vegas, I'll never forget, I had 3 $100 bills in my hand, and I kind of looked at the person I was with, and I said, I think I'm going to pass out. And I just sort of passed out, hit the ground, and the paramedics came, and they said my pulse was extremely low, and that they thought I was dying, and they had to take me to the hospital right away. So it was Christmas Day, 1989, I believe. It was 89, yeah. And they took me to Humana Sunrise Hospital in Las Vegas, and they said, we're going to try and save your life. And I said, you saved my life. I'm in great shape. I'm doing this martial arts movie. What do you mean, save my life? And they said, you've lost a lot of blood. We don't know if we can save your life. We have to operate on you. And I said, well, you mean what, like Monday? And they said, no, like in 10 minutes. They rushed me to the emergency room. I come from a family of doctors. So I said to the doctor, whatever you do, if possible, please don't cut my abdominal muscles. Because I knew if they cut through my abdominal muscles, I was out of the film. I was going to be, out of commission for a long time. And so I said, if you can you resect the muscles so that you keep them intact? And they did. And I woke up in the recovery room. My dad was there. My parents were only able to get one ticket. There was only one ticket available. And so my dad flew out at midnight from Pennsylvania and arrived in Vegas. And, I got a call from John Avildsen, and basically the studio said to me, you got to be back at work in 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks, 10 days, or you're going to lose the job. I think they said they were going to call Brandon Lee.
Yeah, this is what I heard.
So
yeah.
And so I got out of bed the next day, and I had staples up and down my stomach, and I forced myself to walk around the hallway in the hospital floor. I could walk around one time before really I was so exhausted I had to get back in bed. And the next day I walked around, 5 times, 6 times. The day after that, I walked around 10 or 20 times, and I had them release me against, they call it AMA, against medical advice. And they decided, okay, they were going to keep me in the film, but they were going to use a stuntman to do all my karate. And I mean, I've studied karate, for years, and it was very difficult for me to watch somebody that I thought was not as well trained as I was. And ultimately, they put me with a guy from the Rams. There was a football player from the Rams, and they had me doing rehabilitation, doing, first day I could do 10 sit-ups, then I could do 100, then I could do 500, and ultimately I wound up doing all of my own stunts in Karate Kid 3, with the exception of one stunt where, if you remember, I drove this, we had this convertible Mustang, and the bad guys cut right in front of a train that goes by after we sort of, rough Daniel up in the bonsai store. And I said, I'm not doing that. There's no way that I'm, going to ride in a car that's going to just get missed by a speeding train. So that one I didn't do.
Right. Yeah, I can understand why. And that's the scene where you guys were doing donuts in the middle of the street, I think it was.
Yeah, that's the one. You got it.
Yeah. Now, you spoke about the bonsai store, that particular scene. What was it like filming that scene? Because Mike Barnes actually kicks Robin Lively's character. I forgot her name, Jessica or something. Yeah,
I know. Is
right in
that
the
terrible?
abdomen.
It was so terrible. I know. I felt so bad because Robin Lively is such a lovely person. I just felt this is just awful. But I wanted to be very careful that I did it very with a lot of precise technique, and that she didn't get hurt. And it just really solidified what a creep Mike Barnes was.
Now, one of my big questions is, the movie's been out for almost 30 years. It's going to be 30 years next summer, I think. But Mike Barnes is one of the franchise's most popular characters. What would you say the reason for that is? I mean, what is it about his character that has really stuck with fans all these years?
I think, first of all, there's a whole group of people that really prefer the Cobra Kai. They root for the Cobra Kai guys.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For Daniel, right? And I think that, Mike Barnes was really the worst of the Cobra Kai guys. I mean, Johnny really he's not a bad guy. And I think that's been really amplified when you watch the series of Cobra Kai, because it sort of flips it on its head and does this amazing story that really Johnny is the one that was kind of bullied and wronged. But Mike, there's just simply no doubt about it that Mike Barnes was a bad guy. And I think for the people that like the Cobra Kai, they really enjoy the fact that he just was, just such a jerk and so punishing to Daniel-san.
Yeah.
That's my guess. That's that's my hunch as to why people like Mike Barnes so much.
Well, you can't have a good hero if you don't have a good villain.
That's right.
And Mike Barnes was one of the purest villains in that series.
Right, absolutely.
Did you ever come up with like a backstory as to why is Mike Barnes the bad boy of karate? What makes him so bad?
I think Mike Barnes was definitely probably a troubled guy. He probably had a bad home life. Probably poured all his energy into karate, and unfortunately didn't have anyone positive to guide him, and that's why he was, sort of gave into the dark side. It's funny. I've always wondered what would have become of Mike Barnes, especially now with the Cobra Kai series, because we're seeing characters 30 years later. And for me, I always felt like Mike Barnes had two options. He was either going to go to jail, or I thought he would probably join the military and get straightened out, and may have actually turned out not to be such a bad guy. But I didn't see a lot of other alternatives for him.
You don't see Mike Barnes going into the Peace Corps, is what you're saying?
Yeah, no, I don't really see him, volunteering at the library and working with blind children. So, for me, it would be very interesting to see what, in fact, became of Mike Barnes.
Oh, absolutely.
Having served 9 years in the Army myself, I'd like to see Mike Barnes in the military. I think that'd be a pretty cool path for him.
Yeah, and I think it'd be interesting too if I think with his physical ability and everything, he could have probably gone into special forces. And an interesting thing is we know that Sensei Kreese was in the special forces, and I think it'd be interesting to see Mike Barnes come back and really he tapped into the best of who he was rather than the worst. And even though, like Sensei Kreese, they both share the background of being special forces, Mike Barnes ultimately became, a warrior for good.
That would be interesting. Absolutely.
Can you speak to what was it like working with Mr. Thomas Ian Griffith and Martin Cove and just the whole cast, really? Did you spend much time with Ralph Macchio on set at all, being that you guys are supposed to...
I spent time with Ralph only in the scenes where we worked. I think the producers very specifically, wanted to keep us apart. We're not interested in us facilitating any kind of friendship.
Right.
Hopefully to make the relationship on screen more realistic. And I certainly, I think that worked. I mean, I think that, Ralph and I really were able to portray a relationship of two guys that were, absolutely at odds. Working with Marty was amazing for me because you have to remember something. I watched the first two films in the theater. I was a fan. And a year later, within, I'd say a year after Karate Kid 2, I was filming Karate Kid 3. Maybe it was a year and a half. But I mean, within a very short time, I went from being this guy that was, studying karate and wanted to be an actor, watching the movie as a fan, a paying fan, to I'm the guy. And it was surreal. And of course, I'd seen, Martin Cove in the first two films, and he was bigger than life to me. And the ironic thing is that Marty and I are actually very close friends. Marty and I are very close friends. He's very close friends with my wife. He is just absolutely one of the sweetest guys on the planet. He's like an uncle to me. I would say that Marty's like an uncle. And, I have so much love for the guy that it's amazing that, having gone from being this 19-year-old kid on the set to now I'm going to be 52 years old in next month in November.
No kidding. Oh, wow.
And now Marty and I are friends. I know his son and I'm friends with his son, Jesse. So for me, that was one of the best gifts of the experience was forging that friendship with Marty. Working with Thomas Ian Griffith was great. I mean, he's a terrific actor. He was a lot of fun. Created a really sort of bigger than life character, and he and I really enjoyed working together.
What was now? How long after? Now, I think I saw somewhere that you got into cooking at a really early age, like in high school.
I really got to do it, but more when I was in college. I actually wrote a cookbook, which is called The Modern Gentleman: Cooking and Entertaining with Sean Kanan. And I love to cook. I've been fortunate enough that I was able to live in Italy for a while and been over there many, many times. And I've been able to learn a little here, learn a little there. My mother taught me a lot. And, when I was in college, I didn't have the funds to take girls out for expensive dinners, but I figured if I could get them to, come over to my place and cook them a really good home cooked meal, then, I maybe had a shot,
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? That's how I got my wife. It works.
And, I love cooking for my wife, and I don't know, it's kind of therapeutic for me. I love to cook. There's just something about it, about the chopping and the steam, and throw a little music on, and I think there's also something really, there's something very life affirming about feeding someone. I mean, and I think that one of the things I talk about in my book is that food is this amazing conduit to building relationships. I feel like, you can sit down with almost anybody and you break bread with them, you have a meal with them, and it's pretty hard not to forge some kind of a relationship. I think your dog agrees.
Now, while you were in Italy, you were also on the Italian version of Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, I was on Ballando con le Stelle.
What was that like?
It was amazing. that was an amazing experience. I had never lived abroad before. I did the show in Italian. It was just an utterly incredible experience to, live in Rome. At my age, I think I was like 40 something when I did the show. And, I never knew how to dance, and I never thought I was going to learn how to dance. And it was incredible to sort of, learn a new skill at that age, at that age. And it was extremely hard, but it was a fantastic experience.
Well, one of my big questions is, you have a reputation between your roles in, soap operas and on The Karate Kid as being a quote-unquote bad guy. Now, is there any kind of advantage to that sort of public perception? And is there anything that might not be so great about that public perception?
I think it's a lot of fun to play bad guys, especially in a soap opera, because it's really difficult playing a guy that's just a good guy in a soap opera, because soap operas are predicated on conflict and on sexual relationships and all of this crazy stuff. And so when you're a bad guy, you've got a lot more liberty to engage in that kind of behavior. You're not sort of hamstrung by the parameters of being a quote unquote good guy. It has been difficult sometimes finding roles where I can play a good guy. Although I've been fortunate enough that I've done a fair amount of them. But I have played a lot of bad guys. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it. I don't know. It's also fun playing the romantic lead. So, in one respect, I was very fortunate that I got a lot of notoriety from playing, Mike Barnes, the bad guy in Karate Kid. So I had opportunities to play other bad guys, but I think that I had to prove myself a lot more to get roles as a good guy.
You mentioned that you've had extensive work in the field of soap operas. What is it about that medium in particular that you would find rewarding compared to, say, film or other forms of television?
Well, I think that, with soap operas, once you achieve a certain level of notoriety in the world of soap operas, and you've attracted an audience to watch you, that's invested in you as a character. If you go to another show, like I've done 4 soap operas, generally it's easier to get hired because, the producers know that you bring a certain audience with you. They also know that you're capable of doing the amount of work that soap operas involve. When you shoot a film, you might shoot 6, 7 pages, 8 pages a day. When we do a soap opera, we shoot 80 pages a day.
Wow. Yeah, I've always thought that it looked like it'd just be an absolute grind on everybody involved in those things.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, it's kind of like going to the gym. The more you lift weights, the stronger you get. The more you are able to memorize material, the better you get at memorizing. Now, of course, memorizing the material has nothing to do with acting, but it's a skill set that you have to have if you're going to do soap operas, because they move so quickly that, the producers need to know that if you've got 25 pages of dialogue, that you can learn it, overnight.
That's
and
insane.
It's not going to be a problem. Yeah. So, for me, that's never, learning the dialogue's never really been a problem. That's just part of the job.
So, having both worked in the soap opera and also being Mike Barnes on The Karate Kid Part 3, who has the most intense fan base, soap opera fans or Karate Kid fans?
Oh boy, I got to tell you, that's a toss up, because soap operas don't stop. They're continual serials, and so you have people that have watched soaps for 30, 40, 50. General Hospital started as a radio show, and then it became a black and white TV show. And, then of course, it had its heyday in the 80s and blah, blah, blah. So you got people that have watched some of these shows for decades, and they are just diehard loyal fans. That being said, Karate Kid, and the Karate Kid franchise really has become a part of the cinematic tapestry of our nation. And they play the movies over and over again to new audiences. And so it sprouts a whole new crop of fans. And I think, people that are fans of the movie, they watch them again and again. There's this saying, I don't remember who said it, but they said, the reason we listen to songs over and over again, the same song, or watch the same movie over and over again, is because the movie doesn't change, but the eyes that we see it with change, or the ears that we listen to a song change as we change as human beings. So you can watch a movie when you're 15 years old, and it might have a very different effect or appeal to you when you watch it as someone who's 30.
Oh yeah, I actually had the exact thing happen when I watched The Karate Kid for the first time in, about maybe 15 years, where all of a sudden I was able to see it from Miyagi's point of view. And as somebody who is without children myself, I could kind of see how Miyagi definitely latched on to Daniel as sort of a surrogate son.
Right.
And there's no way I would have been able to appreciate that watching it the first time around back in 1984. No way.
Good observation, yeah.
Now, what is the wildest story involving a convention or fan interaction that you can share?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I don't really have any tremendously wild stories about fans. Nothing too crazy, especially with the Karate Kid fans. Usually they're extremely polite, respectful. They're usually just really jazzed to meet one of the characters from the movie and talk for a few minutes. So, nothing too crazy.
Now, as we get to wrap up, I'd like to have you speak a little bit more about your book and what are some other things that people can find in it, because it's kind of like a hybrid, right? It's got a bunch of different things in there, not just recipes.
It is. Yeah, it is a hybrid. It's not just a cookbook. It's a book about how guys can be better guys and how women can understand how guys think. And I talk about a lot of the stuff that's made a big impression in my life. And so there's different chapters. For instance, I've studied Italian for 10 years. It's made a big difference in my life. So I have a chapter called The Modern Gentleman Studies a Language. And there's another chapter called The Modern Gentleman Defends Himself. And I discuss how martial arts has made such a big impression in my life, and how I really feel that, it's something that really helps somebody to be a well-rounded individual, is to study some sort of martial art. So I would encourage anybody who is interested in learning how to cook, but also interested in, learning how to become the best man that they can become, to check out my book. You can get it on a website, which is called SeanKanan.themodernGentleman.com. And if you get a book, you go to the shop and buy one, and I'll be glad to sign it for you. And I love when people read the book and they get back to me and they tell me how much they enjoyed it. It really means a lot to me. So I hope people will go ahead and check that out.
We'll definitely put that in the show notes, so that way it's easier for listeners to check that out if they want to order one.
Thank you.
Is there any other work that that listeners can expect to see you in? I know that you're working on a movie. I'm forgetting the title. I'm blanking on the title right now, but I believe you're a writer on a upcoming movie.
Well, yeah, I am a writer indeed. Yeah, I actually just had a film come out. It was about a month and a half ago. It's called Limelight. I think you can find it on Amazon. It's a real fun movie about Hollywood. I play another bad guy. I play a real sleazebag Hollywood producer. Right now, I've been really tied up. I was hired to write a new TV series. It's a 30-minute single camera dramedy, and so that's really been taking up all my time and all my effort. And it's a terrific project. And as soon as it's ready, I'm going to be letting everybody know about it. That's pretty much what I've been involved in right now, is more in the writing and the producing end of things. But I will. I'm sure I'll get back in front of the camera sooner rather than later.
Is this why you're learning some different foreign languages?
No, it's not. I have always loved studying languages. I'm actually studying 3 right now. I'm studying Italian, French, and Mandarin Chinese. And it's kind of like I said with the cooking, it's a little bit of therapy for me because I'm able to sort of shut my mind off and concentrate only on that and kind of forget everything else that's going on for a couple hours during the day. And I really like it. And I love to travel too. And so the two seem to go hand in hand. I absolutely love to travel, and I think when you're able to speak some of the local language, it really enhances the experience.
And that concludes our conversation with one Mr. Kanan, and I want to thank him again. He kept on telling me to please call him Sean because you know how I am, like with formalities. I always call people Mr. and Mrs. until they
I
tell
get
me.
in trouble with the phrases sir and ma'am all the time, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so thanks again, Sean, for giving us the time. We hope to have you come back someday and talk some more because I know he's got more stories to share, and hopefully what the listeners heard will suffice.
Yes, yeah. Something tells me that if we had time, we could, get all kinds of interesting tidbits out of him. If we had him on again, it would be great.
For sure. I mean, like I said, I got all my questions answered.
Oh yeah,
There's nothing else I needed to know. All right, so that wraps it up for this particular episode. I want to thank everybody for your guys' continued support, and without you,
yes, thank you.
Yes, without you, we wouldn't have this show. We wouldn't have the cast members come on because I think they see you guys interacting with them in the social medias, and we hear it from them that they all love it and appreciate it. So again, thank you guys. So having said that, we would like to ask for I'd say a small favor here. If you really do enjoy our show and would like to show your support, please consider taking a minute or so and just leaving us a star rating or a review if you like on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast app of your choice, which we do have a new one today that I would like to read. But leaving these reviews and the star ratings, it's really going to help out the visibility of the show. Every time I do a search for our show, we fluctuate between top 8 to top 15. So the more ratings and the more reviews will keep us afloat, within the top 10. If people see us, they'll check out the show. So this next review we got, it comes from Tim with a T. So clearly this is clearly
an inside joke if there ever was one.
He enjoys the show, clearly. So the title of this review says, "You are the best around, 5 stars. Peter and Tom, I am new to your Facebook group and find myself mainlining all the posts. I have been also listening to these podcasts and absolutely addicted to them. I don't think my car will start without Cobra Kai Kompanion with a K on."
Nice.
The interviews of the cast, backstories, and motivators bring the characters more alive. In turn, this is causing a lot more thought-provoking ideas and plot twists for the whole series. Thank you. No, Tim, thank you.
Thank you for your kind words.
Yeah.
And now I feel pressure because I just have a feeling that if we're ever late on one episode and you're stranded in the parking lot, you're going to blame us for your dead battery.
Yeah, I think that's one
I
of the...
don't handle pressure well, Tim with the T.
Yeah, I love it. I like how he... I've never heard anything like that before. Like, his car won't start without Cobra Kai Kompanion with the K playing.
That's awesome.
Not only that, he's picked up on like some of the nicknames that we have dropped like on our show as well. I've seen him use that with, some of the members in our group. He referred to somebody, by a nickname that we say on the podcast. So I think that's really cool. That just shows that, we have people, just listening intently, not just casually listening, but we have fans, I guess. There's no other word. So
never ever fails to amaze me whenever I hear that anybody is listening to a show that I'm in.
Yeah,
that's mind blowing.
It's very encouraging. That's the word I'm going to keep using because without seeing this stuff, why? I mean, that motivates us to continue producing.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, bonus content. So speaking of which, we'll definitely have some more bonus content coming your way. We definitely want to spread out the episodes a little bit more now. Now that we have all of the TV Ate My Brain interviews up. Because, for those that have subscribed for a while, you guys may notice I was popping out like 2 episodes every day, but that was just, to bring everybody up to speed, basically. So now that we have all the episodes up, we hope to at least put out an episode once a week. So yeah, there's plenty of content and we have plenty of ideas. One of which, movie reviews. We've talked about it, so expect some of those coming as well. If you want to, join our group page, www.CobraKai.TV A&B group, we'll announce those movies and, you'll get a chance to leave feedback that we can read on the episodes as well, before we review and put them up. So if that's something you're interested in, join the group. We have a very active group. It continues to grow. So big things are happening over at the little group page there.
The little group that could.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys want to reach out to either of us on anything other than Cobra Kai, I do host a movie podcast, which at the time of this recording, Tom and I will be getting ready to do a few Halloween movies. We're not going to do them all. A little ambitious, especially with what we're doing here at Cobra.
Let's be honest with you. The Halloween series is hit and miss at best.
Okay.
There's some real clunkers in that franchise.
I bet. Yeah, so we're going to do a few of those over at Podstalgic. Tom had joined me for the Karate Kid movies, which we also put on this feed. He's joined me for the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise last year. So that's what we'll be doing in October at Podstalgic on Instagram and Twitter. What about you, Tom?
Well, actually, at the time of this recording, I just put out a new episode of Jake and Tom Conquer the World, in which the main subject was Jake forcing me to watch the 1993, I guess you could call it a cult classic, Demolition Man, starring Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone.
That's an amazing movie, Tom. Why didn't you have me on it?
I had to get through it on my own. That's what sometimes a man just has to do things on his own, Peter.
That's an amazing movie. Come on, look. Taco Bell survived the big earthquake. Come on, we talked about after bar foods on your show.
Yeah, you know what? I'm willing to bet that movie would have been a lot better if I had a good beer buzz going.
Maybe some Coors Banquet. So
there you go.
Yeah, couple other teases because you mentioning that by the time listeners hear this, that episode will be out. Maybe a Halloween episode will be out because this is recorded in advance. I think at this time, I would hope by this time, Mr. Voss Sanchez is supposed to be back on the show to do a little special episode.
Our first return guest, if I remember right.
First return guest. He's gonna again, if everything is working out, that episode should already be out. But if you guys see like a Voss Sanchez part 2 or something to that effect, he shares a pretty cool story that he heard on set.
One that I am dying to hear directly from the man himself. I heard it secondhand. I gotta hear it from Voss.
Yeah. It's about a little podcast you guys might have heard of. So that's a little tease for you guys there. So that's going to do it. Cobra Kai Pod on Twitter, Cobra Kai Podcast on Instagram. Make sure you guys follow us there. And thanks everybody again for checking us out. We'll see you next time.
See ya.